Awesome. Well, my name is Anselmo, and I'm a sales engineer here at Zoho. For today, we'll be going over how we can get actionable insights with customer surveys. And for today's agenda, I'll go ahead and cover leveraging surveys for market research, how we can deploy customer surveys effectively, how we can integrate surveys with other Zoho tools, as well as how we can analyze these and gain insights. And before we jump right in, just why do we survey our audience? So that is going to provide us with a good understanding and get or understand our customers deeply. So that means we'll understand their pain points, needs, expectations, as well as things where we can improve. We can also measure and improve our satisfaction. So we can go ahead and see our pitfalls. What can we do better? And that could be using different tools like NPS scores, customer satisfaction scores, as well as customer effort scores, which we'll talk about in the survey platform. And this allows us to identify areas of growth and innovation. So this is feedback that we're getting from our customers. They'll let us know, highlight where there's some unmet needs, as well as suggest improvements which could spark inspiration for new products or services. And we'll be able to make data-driven decisions. This means no second guess anymore. We're going to have concrete data to back up our strategies moving forward. Now, as far as leveraging these surveys for market research, pretty sure y'all are familiar with or have seen commercials that say, hey, for like Crest or Colgate, like 5 out of 4 dentists recommend brand X. So these are the kinds of like advertisement claims or maybe social media posts, infographics you can use for your business, as well as maybe to improve your customer support or maybe you're doing some kind of marketing. These survey responses can actually be purchased if you maybe need to survey a lot of people, you don't have the time for it or the resources. Zoho Survey does offer a way to access and purchase research panels for market research. And switching over to my website here, I'll show you here under Zoho Survey. For those of you who are maybe not familiar with it, if you look at the very top, there's a button that says Buy Responses, and you can actually cater these to either B2B or B2C solutions. And for the B2C solutions, it does allow me to also set different demographics and as well as calculate just eyeball how much it would cost to survey 500 to 1,000 people. So right now, if I keep scrolling towards the bottom, you're going to see the little slider. This shows me how many responses I might need to maybe do some market research. It's roughly about $2 per response. That's what you're looking for. So we can do a quick check. We're looking at 500 responses for a survey. The incident rate, how many of these do we want to accept if they complete the survey is like 90% of the way. Also looking at the types of questions we're going to be surveying. Are these going to be open-ended, closed-ended questions, and also target audience. You do have these demographics to choose from. Yeah. So these are going to be derived from your survey that you create. Just gives you, from this page, we can calculate. So I'll go ahead and run it for 10 questions. 5 open-ended, 5 closed-ended, and for generic demographics, country, the U.S., we're doing both genders, age 18 to 100, which is pretty big range, household income, marital status, and so forth. So I can just calculate it right here on the spot. So for about 500 responses, you can add a little under $1,000 to purchase these research panels. I included the links in the presentation, so if you need to go back, or you can find them directly on the website. And this is just to highlight the key demographics that you can choose from for these panels. Also, things you could do within the survey platform, it does allow you to target respondents. So you don't want to go ahead and waste your time sending these out to 100 or 5,000 people that are not going to meet the criteria. So one thing that survey allows you to do is create a disqualification logic. Essentially, I can do kind of like page skips. At the very top, if I'm targeting, males in the U.S., that are smokers versus non-smokers, I can disqualify any smokers directly and then just go ahead and take them out of that survey list completely. So this is something when you build your surveys, you can include these types of conditions or questions at the very beginning just to make sure you get the right sample size. And then I do want to share, this is one of the research panels that Zoho conducted. It's a consumer insights and perceptions report. This is actually from last year. And this was around 400 individuals. They were a survey to just gain deeper insights into their customer service experience, perception of changes in the markets, as well as interactions with different brands. So these are insights you also can take home and use for your business. I do have the link for this survey or this, I guess, case study, but I'm able to show you just some of the insights. There's like 6 bullet points that they wanted to highlight for us, which I'll be showing you for today. So interesting enough, around 1 in 3 shoppers would abandon a purchase to avoid having to download or log in an app. So that means making it as easy as possible for you consumers to do, if you have like an e-commerce or something, have payment options that you can just quickly purchase. So if you're, for example, you're on your Amazon account, if you had to re-log in every single time you want to do a purchase, that would be very annoying. So those are some of the trends that they noticed. About 60% of respondents felt that their feedback doesn't really matter. So they would avoid providing feedback. They're like, they're not going to listen to my feedback, so why even bother? So these are things you might want to change from your consumers, maybe depending on the questions or services that you provide. Only about 25% of the people would pay for extra support, and this is interesting. So most people feel they don't really see a difference. About 40 to 50% don't see a difference with paid customer support versus, I guess, traditional or classic support. About 50% of respondents value the human interaction, so having the opportunity to call somebody or be able to email with somebody versus having like chatbots or AIs. I personally hate when I have to go and have an outage and I'm trying to troubleshoot my internet and I hop on the Spectrum website and get hit with that bot, which takes me nowhere. I usually just want to be transferred to a rep right away. So their customers value that kind of interaction. Also, 6 out of 10 respondents felt they would opt in for brands that have transparent pricing. So that means pricing up front. That means I'm able to go onto the web page, see the different editions, plans, without having to reach out to get a quote or things like that. I do the same thing when I'm shopping around for like a new power company. I'm going to go with the one that gives me the best price right up front. Don't want to have to call somebody to get pricing or get a quote, which takes some time. And people more than twice as likely to trust a stranger's review over an influencer. So that means that word of mouth matters. I know I got hooked on the TikTok store. So you probably see an influencer bragging about a product or service, and you actually buy it, and you end up being a little bit disappointed. So I would ask a friend or a buddy, say, hey, what do you think about this product? Is it worth trying it or buying it? So word of mouth matters when it comes to influencing your customer's experience. As far as deploying customer surveys, there's actually 2 different tools that work very similar. So before we get into the survey platform, most people will argue like, why use survey over Zoho Forms? So if you all have used Zoho Forms, it integrates very similar to some of the other Zoho tools. We're going to have very similar question types, and it has that kind of same drag and drop feel for customization. So why would we use survey over Zoho Forms when it comes to collecting feedback? Zoho Survey has pre-built survey questions. So that's going to be like rank choices, star ratings, net promoter scores, which are things that Zoho Forms doesn't do a good job at. So that means I can, if I'm doing like a customer feedback survey, then kind of rank, how would you feel our service was today, or how would you feel coffee was from baristas. We can also rank these, we can also use star ratings to then calculate net promoter scores. And this is really important. Net promoter scores let us know or engage satisfaction for customers or products or services. And just a quick infographic for those of you who are not familiar with an NPS and how it's calculated. This is derived from a single question, usually on a scale of 1 to 10. And then we're going to use our promoters, which are 9s and 10s, and our detractors, which are anything that's lower than 6. These are people who are maybe not happy with the brand, they have negative feedback, and our promoters, which are going to be our go-getters, is going to be our target audience. And in order to calculate the NPS, we'll grab the percentage of the promoters and then subtract it from the percentage of our detractors. So that's going to give you a range of usually anywhere from negative 100 to 100. And as long as you're above the 0 mark, means you're doing okay, but usually you want to get as close as possible to that 100% mark. So a little bit about NPS. Also, We do have better reporting. So these can be very specific reporting for analyzing sentiment. For example, we can usually pull up like a word cloud, which is something that's not available in the reportings for Zoho Forms. So you can use these very niche reports directly onto the survey platform. We also have automated NPS scoring. So just like I mentioned, we have that questionnaire that goes out on a scale of 1 through 10, how would you rate our services? And survey has this built in automatically. You could potentially replicate this with forms, doing some kind of formula fields, but this kind of takes that hassle out of the way. Now, for distribution methods, if we're looking at survey as a standalone tool, which oftentimes gets bundled with like CRM Plus or Zoho One, we can distribute emails or survey emails, which is the standard one. We can also do SMS. So for SMS, we do partner with these providers, Clickatel, Twilio, SMS Magic. You can purchase credits from them, and you can mass email or mass text these as needed. And we also have traditional campaigns. So Zoho Survey does integrate with both Zoho Campaigns and SurveyMonkey. So you want to deploy these at scale. Maybe you just don't want to be limited to the survey platform. You can connect to those campaign tools. And then another way we can do this, we can also embed our surveys on our website. Just to quickly show you what that looks like, I have one of my sites running, and this is a Zoho site. You don't have to use Zoho site. You can integrate this on Wix or WordPress. So running behind the scenes, I have a survey that's embedded. I have some pre-configured behaviors. So as I'm scrolling through the website, maybe there's a product-specific page, and I reach somewhere towards the middle, I should get a pop-up. Actually, let me do a quick refresh here. There you go. So if I scroll about halfway down the page, I'm going to be hit with a survey. You can also set a timer on these. You can set specific pages where you want the surveys to deploy. This one's a little small, so I'm just going to show you what the questionnaire looks like. So this web page surveys, I called it. It's going to ask me, have you found what you're looking for? How helpful is this page or product or service page you're on? And maybe tips or things that we can improve on. So I can fill this out, close it out right away. Shouldn't be bugging my visitors too often. So things like this, we can also extend functionality from the survey tool. To get to this point, I'm going to show you what it looks like behind the scenes. So I'm going to jump into my survey platform. So I would say survey is very simple to use. It does have that drag and drop feel to the UI. And then we're also going to talk about some of the integrations with some of the other Zoho products. So if you weren't familiar, we can integrate with something like a CRM, the campaigns tool, like I mentioned, or if you're doing any kind of customer service, we do have our ticketing system called Zoho Desk. But for those of you who have not played around or used our survey platform, I already have some of these surveys that have been deployed. I can see right now, out of 11 surveys, I have 9 that have been published and 2 that are still in a draft stage. So very minimal UI. I can go straight into that web page survey I was looking at. I can get a glance of the number of responses directly from this homepage. And then just to take a deeper insight, we're going to have access to some dashboards directly on this page. I have on the left-hand side a summary of the survey that we're looking at. In the center, the total responses, maybe the last time I received a response, and a couple other dashboards here at the bottom. We do have our builder or editor. We'll come back to this in a little bit. You can also take a peek at some of the reporting. These, I would say, we have the default reports with Zoho Survey. And if you all have attended any of the Zoho Analytics sessions, we have an extended reporting, which we'll show you for today. We're going to be looking at the builder. So the builder, just like Zoho Forms, if you've used something similar to that, we're going to have our question types. I mentioned we have that rating scale, NPS calculators. These can be very specific to the survey platform. And I have some of the questions that you saw before, like true or false, being on a scale 1 through 10, open-ended, and also collecting some information like first name, last name, and email. A lot of the settings, a lot of the workarounds and tools of the platform are going to be happening within the settings, themes, hubs, and the launch. For the settings, I was able to configure certain behaviors. So do I want my surveys to start 10 seconds after a page has been deployed? Do I want to redirect visitors to a specific landing page or to restart a survey? So a lot of these can be done directly from here. We can also customize the look and feel. I'd say it has a light Themes editor. You can always customize some of the raw HTML and CSS. But for these, I can maybe change some of the fonts and colors. I can maybe apply a nicer looking template just so we can work with that. I can also edit these themes. Like I said, there's some limited branding here, but I can't change the color schemes, the fonts. Maybe I want to toggle some of the effects that we have when we deploy these, or as they pop up on a web page. As you can see, that's a little pop-up that we saw earlier when I deployed my survey. And then for the hub, this is going to be the integrations with the other tools. So we do have some Zoho products you can connect with, like the CRM, to maybe collect feedback from existing customers. If you're doing any active recruitment, like an ATS system, we have Zoho Recruit. I can send out a survey after an interview from one of our candidates. And then other tools like integration with customer service to collect feedback, the live chat and visitor tracking, if we have customers that want to rate our experience on the chat, and a couple other tools like Zapier, Google Sheets, and Salesforce. And as far as launching surveys, this is that section that I want to get to. So we already talked about the different distribution types. We have the email, the SMS, and the campaigns. But towards the bottom, I have an option to generate a website insert. And we can have either a static survey on a page that we can easily deploy. So you can grab this information as an embed. We have the HTML embed, an iframe. I'm going to go ahead and copy this, paste it on my Wix or WordPress, as well as a pop-up survey. So that's the little pop-up you saw in my window. I do want to make some changes to the behavior, so it does allow me to reconfigure it. So do I want this to show up in one or all pages on my site? Do I want this to trigger 10 or 15 seconds after you join the site? And then how far do I want people to scroll down before that pop-up comes up? I've also centered this, so I can go ahead and maybe put it on the left or the bottom right, just so it doesn't get in the way of any content on my page. And of course, I can always change the height, minimize a pop-up, after they're on a certain time frame. So this information is going to be really up to you. I'm going to regenerate the code, and I just really grab this and embed it into my website. So any pages that you want this to deploy can be done directly through the survey tool. Another nice feature is offline data collection. If you're maybe out in the field, you want to have a tablet with you, maybe doing door-to-door, you want to collect feedback from a community, you can use the kiosk feature of surveys. So this allows me to create a survey. I can download it to a device, an iPad, a phone, a laptop, and I can collect this data. This will be stored locally, and once you connect to a network or Wi-Fi, you can push these to the cloud. So again, these will work very similar exactly how they were on the website. They will just be running locally on that device, which is pretty neat. Now, how do we integrate surveys to get a 360 view of our customers? This is where the other tools that Zoho offers come into play. Now, with CRM, I'm not going to take a deep dive into what the CRM is. I'm going to show you more of the integration in the platform. I'll be looking at a single customer. I'm going to show you how survey responses populate into that record, and then how we can trigger survey responses via some kind of template or embedding these on a button for a response. So we're going to switch over now to my demo account. I'm going to go straight into the CRM from here. And as you can see, I'm already in the record I'm using for today's Bob Smith. Bob Smith is one of my existing customers. I can see on the left-hand side, this is the related list. This is universal across the CRM. I can track notes, documents, email integrations, or emails via the integration. And I also have a section here for customer service tickets via Zoho Desk, as well as Zoho Survey. So this allows me to quickly access responses from this specific customer. I might be emailing multiple customers or serving multiple customers at a time, but specifically for Bob Smith, I see the last survey that was sent out. In this case, it was a customer satisfaction survey, the date it was sent, when it was responded to, and then who the person that sent this. If this is coming from the CRM, I have easy access to track all these metrics. And the integration with CRM also allows me a couple extra features on the right-hand side, just to zoom into it. We're going to have these buttons. These are going to come in to allow you to either create surveys on the fly. If I have access as an admin to the survey platform, I want to create a specific survey for these customer segments, I can do it from here. The way this works is it just redirects me to the survey platform. So it's just more of a redirect. We're back to where we started. Now, if I already have a couple of surveys in my gallery and I just want to quickly send a survey to Bob Smith, maybe I was on a call, I would send him a survey to share some feedback. We can do this via the integration with the CRM. So it's going to allow me to select for my pre-built survey templates. I already have that customer satisfaction survey I was looking at earlier, so I'm going to grab this in here. We can preview it just to make sure we're looking at the right template. This is going to take me to this nice looking template that I built. I have some information that will be auto-populated, like company name or service of interest, and then any other questions you might have included. So if I go back, I can go ahead and insert it. It's going to pop up our email editor and generate that link for us. This maybe doesn't look as pretty. I don't want to have to copy and paste links every single time. So I'm going to show you a nicer way to go about this. One thing that the integration does is versus me sending these individually through the survey platform, the integration with CRM allows me to track individual survey responses. So that does it. It does it by embedding a contact ID. This is a contact ID generated by your CRM. So when these surveys are completed, it's able to refer this back into our system, and then we can track those as we can see here. Now, I don't want to have to mask this into a link and have to copy and paste this every single time. So to save time with my users, I created an email template, and I'm going to show you as well how the integration with templates work. So I want to make it as easy as possible for my team to trigger a email template with a survey link. This could be done via a workflow rule. I can trigger their email template. We can also do these in bulk. I can mass select the list of contacts from my CRM, send them that survey email, or we can do them one by one as we've been doing so far. So we're going to look into the settings or the setup in the CRM environment. I'm going to go to my email templates. And this is kind of one of those hidden features. It's really hard to find unless you really know what you're looking for. So I'll show you how easy it is to get there. We're going to use one of our existing templates just so we can start from zero. So I call this an onboarding survey. Normally, I want this to trigger once my deal closes. We're going to go ahead and send out a notification for our onboarding team. And then post-onboarding, we'll go ahead and get some feedback through the onboarding survey we have here. So just to see the editor, I can preview it. For those of you who have played around with a CRM, it's pretty simple. These are pre-built templates. You can also import your own templates as an HTML or plain text, or we can just work with the defaults. So I'm going to make some changes on the template itself. We can also include dynamic fields. These are going to be in the form of merge fields. Notice these fields with that kind of, I would say, the money tag, as I would call it. It's going to auto-populate first name, last name, and maybe the email directly into the body of the template. I've also included a link, and this link is going to be pulled from the Zoho survey via the integration. So the way we insert these is we'll go ahead and select the survey section that I have here. We're going to insert now a new link. Normally, you would have to go and grab this from Zoho survey, generate the link, copy and paste it back into the template. But it makes it very easy for me now to click on this link type. So this is where I mentioned this is one of those hidden features in the CRM. This also works very similar to Zoho Forms. So if I want to create an intake form that I want to update, client profiles, you can use Zoho Forms. Zoho Forms very similar to the way surveys work. And I'll just click on the survey link. It's going to allow me to now browse the templates that I have available, that customer satisfaction survey that we have here, and I can just quickly embed it. So there you go. We only have to do this once. It's kind of a hidden feature, but now I have it available for the rest of my team. So I'm going to close this out so I can show you what it looks like. Now that I've created the template, I've embedded the link in the template, my teams have access to this pretty quickly. I'm going to go back to Bob Smith. And if I send out a new email, we can choose a template that we built earlier. So again, we're starting from scratch. We can insert a template, and we have that same onboarding survey that I created. So just things, little tips and tricks to make it easier for teams to work on this. Don't know if I click save, so I might have to come back to this. But the template is there. Just have to make sure we click save before we finish. So that's one way we can get data from surveys into the CRM. Other things we could automate. Surveys can also populate data in a CRM. I can use it as essentially an intake form. I can send it out to collect feedback, and maybe I want to grab the NPS score and have it displayed somewhere within a field in the CRM or a custom section. So those are going to be more advanced automations. Maybe I want to update my lead scoring statuses based on the NPS scores, or I want to trigger alerts if we get a bad feedback, bad reviews from an account or a big client that we work with. We can look into those. So things to consider, the email templates are more of an entry point into the integration. Uh, Now, if we need to send these in bulk, we can easily do these through CRM, but there's definitely some limitations. CRM will max out around 1,000 or 2,000 contacts. My list might be in the hundreds of thousands, so this is where something like campaigns would come into play. For the campaigns tool, I won't be showing you how to build one of these from scratch. I'm just going to dissect one that I've built out. This is going to be using a workflow rule in campaigns. So jumping over now to the campaigns platform. For those of you who haven't played with campaigns, we can send one-off emails in bulk, and we can also set up some kind of cadence or drip campaign. And for this, we're going to be using the automation tool. So these are our workflows, very similar to how CRM has its own workflows, so does campaigns. I created one already called survey campaigns. I can quickly jump into this. The editor is pretty interesting and very different from like CRM or other tools. It does give you this kind of drag and drop tool. I can space out emails in sequence. We can create conditional logic. If an email or if a customer is from this region and has a service, we can route them to one route or the other. But we're going to keep it simple. At the left-hand side, there's going to be some triggers that we can use, essentially our segmentation or lists that they're a part of. We can also trigger certain processes. I mentioned we can have these different branchings. So depending on where they're from, what service they're interested in, and we're going to have our actions, in this case being our emails as well as surveys. These orange blocks you see at the bottom, these are going to be our content blocks. So I'm going to be able to embed either the email templates, the survey links, form links as well. We can space out campaigns using these blue spacers. These could be done in days, weeks, or hours at a time. And at the very bottom, I use one of these special blocks. This is an integration of Zoho Survey with campaigns. So this allows me, just like I was able to do on the CRM, I'm going to drag a block, create the body of the email, and then throw those links in there. I can show you really quickly what these look like. Definitely, there's some contrast between the template editors and CRM campaigns. So campaigns definitely has a better UI. It has more options for customization, but it functions very similarly. So I'm able to create these merge tags. We can have dynamic content embedded. At the very bottom, I have that same embedded link on the Take Survey button. I can actually preview it. It should be the same thing that I had before. So this is actually an advertisement feedback survey versus a customer satisfaction on the CRM side. Now, the integration allows me to track the responses for the email as well as the completion stage of the survey. I'm going to close this out just to show you how the branching works. So things that we're going to be tracking is the email for the survey, has it been delivered? Is it open? Replied to? And then we're going to have these survey-specific questions. So was the survey started but not completed? And was the survey completed? So this is being tracked by campaigns in real time. Now, at any given time, they might meet one of these criteria. Maybe I send out the initial survey, somebody opened it, looked at it, just kind of walked away. So I might want to follow up in a week or so. So I'm going to create another branch, another path, and they're going to have a different template. Maybe just, hey, make sure you continue, or make sure you fill out the survey that we sent out. For those who successfully complete the survey, we might have a different path for them. It's going to be really up to you what kind of content you want to deliver. But the integration is pretty neat. The survey responses will also be available for reporting within the campaigns platform. And like you can see right now, I'm able to create different journeys. And we can have additional logic. So this could be surveys completed and then customers who are in a specific region or who are interested in a specific product or service. Now, we have two integrations with Desk. Prior to this year, we had an extension that was available to essentially send out surveys for customer support and collect that feedback in Desk. For those of you who are not familiar with Desk, it's our help desk and ticketing system. The integration with Survey now allows us to also create service tickets via submission. So that is new. So there's a little bit of an overlap. I can collect data from customer service tickets, but I can also now create tickets via these submissions. Very similar to how maybe a web form can trigger a desk ticket. We can do the same thing now with forms. So I'll talk about both in a little bit. But switching over to my demo environment, we're going to look at Zoho Desk for a little bit. We're not going to spend too much time on this section, just one for you to see how the data comes in. And this is a typical queue or service queue. Support teams will work on this on a daily. So if we get requests via email, chat, phone, these are going to fall in this general bucket. The tickets that I have a couple that have issues with their passwords or their accounts. And this is coming from Bob Smith, who we looked at earlier in the CRM. So Bob has already submitted a request, and we want to see what that looks like. Now, the ticket itself is just going to have the question that was submitted. Some cool things that Zoho Desk does is gives me kind of like some sentiment analysis. I can look at some of the Zia insights, lets me know that the customer's frustrated, and it gives me a quick summary of what topics are needed. So in this case, a password reset might be in play, and then they're having issues accessing their account. So these are more of Zoho Desk features. If you have been to the service track, you've probably seen some of these. But for today, I'm looking at the response. So what I'm going to do via the integration, just like with CRM, just like with campaigns, I can now respond directly to customers in this service ticket and automatically generate that survey link within the response. So I don't have to go generate these externally. I can do it all from within this platform. I'm using the same concept as templates. For my response, I'm going to acknowledge that the ticket was received, and I'll have somebody reach out to the customer shortly. So we're always going to be including this survey link at the very bottom. Zoho Desk already has a pre-built, I would say, a built-in survey, a happiness rating as it's called, but it's very limited. It really just gives you like 5 options. How would you rate your surveys? And it gives you at the very end a frowny face, and at the very right, a happy face. So there's kind of like a spectrum in there. So there's not a lot of data I'm collecting from that versus I'm happy, I'm not happy with the service. So there might be a need to collect additional data. So what don't you like about the surveys? How are the average response times? Is there anything else that we can help you with? So that integration allows us to generate this email template, and then just like with CRM, we can collect that information in the customer. So I'm just going to respond to them, and I'll show you what one of these looks like once they complete the survey. But I'm going to wait for the response. Once this survey comes back, we can look at a different example. This other ticket with issues under their account. This has a completed response, so maybe it closed out the ticket. I was able to get the customer some assistance. The integration will then generate a note in the ticket, and this is going to have the survey responses. So again, me as a support agent, I can get real insights on feedback from these customers. So I can now look at the viewer response section. Is going to open up this little window. We're going to have the summary of responses for this individual. So I can see that he rated us, say, pretty high on a scale of 1 to 4 or 1 to 5 for friendliness, knowledgeable, helpful, and everything else in between. So there's a lot of open-ended questions, true or false, that I included. So it makes it very easy now for support reps to have visibility on how they're doing. Of course, this is also available for our managers. If they need to run reports, collect customer feedback, that will be available for them as well. Now, we have data across multiple platforms. We want to analyze all of this and maybe figure out what kind of insights we can gain. This is where Zoho Analytics comes in. So Zoho Analytics is going to be our extended reporting and BI tool. Analytics is, I would say, the backbone for pretty much all of Zoho when it comes to reports. If I want to have one place, like a one-stop shop to see data from my CRM, from marketing, from support, as well as combine data into one dashboard for surveys, that's the power of analytics. So this allows me to, in real time, sync survey responses into this platform. And we'll be able to use ready-made reports and dashboards. And of course, this allows us to then blend data from these different tools. So that means versus using the very static reports and dashboards that survey offers, we have essentially now this BI platform where we can create nicer looking graphs and charts. These charts can be shared externally. We can generate links. We can embed these pretty much wherever we need. And you can see some of these question types. These are things that survey does not have as a standalone. Like the question type distributions, survey creation trends, and then respondents over time. So I can kind of see where the drop-offs are for these specific surveys. So again, anything to do with reporting, Zoho Analytics is going to be the place to be. Now, what kind of insights can we get from combining data from surveys and CRM? So that allows us to now identify upsell and cross-sell opportunities. If we have any kind of financials tied to the customers, We can also see, if we're purchasing specific products and we're serving our customers where they're not, where the two things don't line up. I might see customers who purchase a specific product, but they're submitting really bad reviews. So I can use that to maybe look into the issue. We can qualify leads more effectively. So like I mentioned, we can also apply scoring rules into the CRM. We can collect that feedback, use Zoho Analytics to compare and score these customers, and then gives us some trends that we can use. Identifying at-risk deals or accounts. So again, if we're collecting this data in real time, I can see where are some of the pitfalls, where do we need to focus more time for these key accounts, as well as understand different segments. So different customers might have a different experience with our products, so we can quantify that using analytics. And now, blending data into campaigns, we can correlate a survey with how a campaign is being engaged. Like I said, we can track when these surveys are sent out, when they're open, when they're completed. So maybe the marketing material is not well placed. People are not engaging, clicking on the buttons as we like. And this also helps us refine and target our segmentation. So we can create these very hyper-focused segments of customers that we want to survey. And lastly, the customer service experience. We can track satisfaction trends over time. Can we see, is our customer service getting better or worse as we gain more customers? We can also identify drivers for satisfaction, dissatisfaction. They're providing a little bit more feedback versus just a frowny face or a happy face. They can provide us, are they spending too much time waiting for us to get a response? Are we providing inaccurate resources in our knowledge base? Those are all useful things we can collect and visualize with analytics, as well as this is going to help us optimize our support channels. So now that we have the data in our hands, we can maybe focus on training for the support teams, build out our knowledge base a little bit better, or fill out any documents that we don't have online. For you all, next steps. So I would challenge you all to identify one key insight that you need from your customers. You can, of course, play around with Zoho Survey. You can create a draft and also explore some of the integrations. These are only a handful that I mentioned. There's going to be other tools you can integrate. If you want to use something like Zoho Flow, it's going to expand some of the integrations that are available.